Hi guys, and welcome back to another video. So it has been a while since I've been drawing on Procreate, let alone filming a video on my iPad, but I thought it'd be fun today to kind of do something that I usually like to do if I kind of want to turn my brain off just a little bit. So oftentimes if I see some photos of 17 members or anything like that that has some awesome lighting or just like a general aesthetic or something that I really like in the photograph, I like to do fan art of it. So typically people would probably consider these more like studies or I don't know, drawing something more or less in your style. But a lot of people in more like the K-pop fandom, from what I've seen, like to do this where you take either concept photos, photos of like the K-pop idol that you like, and draw that specific person or the concept photo or whatever kind of in your style, almost kind of like a one-to-one, if that makes sense. So in a way, if you didn't care about like who's in the photo or I don't know how to explain it. It's like basically just doing a study. So for me, whenever I do these kinds of drawings, I kind of treat them more like studies as well as like a way for me to do fan art but turn my brain off a little bit. So the one that I'm doing for today is going to be of 17's Jonghan, as they had a recent I don't know what you consider. Carrotland is more like a fan meeting, or is it more like a concert? They do like a heck of a lot of performances and stuff, and I feel like the scale of it has gotten so big, it's more like another concert. So there's some really cool and pretty photos from it, but the one that caught my eye is actually this one of Jonghan. So Jonghan recently dyed his hair kind of like a blonde color. His hair is kind of floofy and just longer as of right now, but recently he dyed like the tips or the ends like blue, and I think this is on day 2, I think, of Carrotland. So he tied his hair with this cute little bow on top. I'm not sure if this is for like the encore. I did not have time to watch the fan meeting live, and I've only been watching clips. I might buy the VOD later if I can, but for the most part I haven't had time to do like a full watching of anything. Like I believe Carrotland was like 3 hours or something, 3 to 4 hours. So if I find the time, I'll watch it, but I think this one's from day 2. So I follow a few fan sites. I'm kind of hoping this one's not from a fan site that we don't like in terms of like, you know, not respecting their privacy and stuff. I'll see if I can double check a little bit later, but I don't recognize the name of this fan site, so I'm not too sure if they're problematic or not. If you have more knowledge about this particular fan site, do let me know. I'll make sure to link the reference photo that I'm using for today in the description. So in terms of how I'm treating this, so yes, I'm treating it as kind of like a study. So I mentioned in a previous video, I think about a year ago, about why I like to draw fan art, and I'll post that little thumbnail alongside with the drawing that I did in that video, because that one in particular, I ended up, one, I really love the photos from it, but 2 is that I was fixated on wanting to kind of like teach myself how to render, or was just kind of interested in the boxing gloves in that particular piece. So I wanted to draw fan art of that one so that we can kind of treat it like a study, but for the most part I also just wanted to draw Wonu at the time. But for this one, I like drawing Jonghan a lot. I think his hair is just super cute, but the fun thing about this particular photo is all the little fluffy flyaways from his hair. I'm sure it's because like 1, fluffier hair, but 2, his hair might be fried, but there's like a lot of like wispy flyaways. So I thought it'd be fun to try to capture that kind of fluffiness that the light is kind of like backlighting? What am I saying? Rim lighting. So from the light from the back side of him is like shining through his hair, and we kind of get this really bright, almost white silhouette of all the little flyaway pieces around his hair, his skull, and then like a nice little outline around his shoulders. So with kind of the sketch out of the way, we can go ahead, duplicate that sketch, change one of them to multiply. We'll change the hue and the brightness a little bit so that we can use that for our coloring later. But before we color Jonghan, I am going to color the background. So the background I'm not going to be too concerned with. Sometimes when I do these types of fan art for like K-pop idol concept photos, I like to take in consideration the background a little bit more and try to mimic it. But for this one, because it's kind of like concert, very blurred background, I'm also going to keep it very simple and very blurred, as it's not going to be the main focus anyways. And then after that, we will be moving on to coloring in Jonghan himself. So I did do small effects and things that are not going to be present in the photo because I just think they look a little bit cuter and adds an extra touch to it. So I added the little dust particles in the background. But after that, we can color in Jonghan by selecting everything with the lasso tool in the freehand mode, or like, I guess like selection tool. So I'm going around the entire outline of Jonghan so that we can use the color fill option in the selection tool, and I'll fill everything on the inside. I'll make sure to also erase any areas that don't need to be filled in. After that, I will alpha lock the entire color layer that's already filled in with this kind of like light pinkish peach tone, and we can go ahead and start coloring the skin. So I feel like my coloring is pretty much the same as I usually do, and I don't want to be a broken record in terms of like the process. So usually I like to start with the skin, we'll move to eyes, hair, and clothing. And yeah, I guess for this one, I am going to be doing the same, kind of starting off a base color for the skin, doing the shadows, pulling some highlights. Sometimes I do it the opposite, where I'll drop the shadow color and pull out our midtones and highlights instead. But this one felt a little bit more straightforward for the most part. And I guess like color-wise, I am not gonna follow it 100% like one-to-one. I definitely think like, because sometimes when I do these fan art and I want to take a break, but I just kind of want to draw something. In this case, I just wanted to draw something pretty. I do turn off my brain a little bit, so I ended up not drawing Jonghan as like more stereotypical in my style. Like it definitely is, but there's like some choices that I feel like teeter the line between I could have made it more stylized versus like me trying to adjust certain features and proportionings to look more like Jonghan, and I get into a weird area. So at the stage that it is in right now, I'm going to be doing a lot of liquefying and fixing up some of the colors and stuff later on to kind of let it fit my needs or like what I prefer. I tend to use brighter colors anyway compared to, let's say, the reference photo. So just kind of pick and choose what you want to get from your little study or fan art. It's just, you know, make it what you want it to be for the most part. So, Other than that, because I've been mostly working on merch stuff, sooner or later it's going to be over. So it's like the beginning of August, around August 8th to August 11th, I will be at AnimeFon tabling. So after that, my store will reopen probably the week after that, and then I will be free to kind of catch up on drawing everything that I want to and all the projects that I want to do, which will include, because hopefully if I'll say it, I'll do it in the future and I won't forget, is that I kind of want to do a lot more live 2D rigging, and specifically like for smaller animations. So some things I want to do is probably like the phone wallpapers like I did for, I think, Lazulite for Niji Sanji En for their anniversary. I believe I'd made like 3 or 4 wallpapers, and I think they turned out pretty cute. So there's some other characters I want to do alongside with some that I want to do for friends. So I might do that, and I'll take you guys along with me with the process once again. But I'll try my best to film the entire process of like planning and ways you can kind of customize your wallpaper to be more suited for whatever animation you kind of want. The other one that I kind of want to do is another 17 animation. So if you're not familiar, and I'm sure a lot of you aren't because I haven't made one in years, on like the front page of my YouTube, a video automatically plays, which I think I can set it so that it doesn't, but there is a animation that I did that's like done very poorly, but I adore it so much, is that it's a 17 chibi animation, and they're just very fun to make at the time, even though they're very time consuming. So basically I would record the clip of a specific scene or moment of an episode of, let's say, like Going 17 or just of any video. And then I will take the audio file and try to animate it in like little chibi forms. And before, I would have more time to do it, and I didn't mind that, you know, things were a little bit more timely and that kind of stuff. But I think I am just going to hopefully dabble into that once again. And the biggest reason is that I believe that in Live 2D, you can drag audio files into the animation timeline, which would be a big game changer if that is true. And I would like to experiment with it, so I'll definitely take you guys along with me if I end up doing that, because it'll make some of the lip flaps so much easier, probably more natural, like eye blinking and stuff for the most part. Because when I used to make my little 17 animations, I would do them frame by frame. So if I wanted I guess like at first, and when I wanted the character to blink and talk, I would usually separate the frames so that they would blink and then probably open their mouth later. And then later on, I actually started to kind of merge them. So sometimes midway through talking, they will blink, but I have to time it specifically so that things just work out, so that he's not like going to be opening his or closing his eyes for too long just because I need to hold a frame for the mouth for longer. So hopefully using Live 2D, it'll make it a lot easier for me to get that to flow naturally, because there is a specific scene that I want to do from like one of the recent Going 17 episodes from the TTT series, and it's like, I think it's Jonghan saying like, "I love you, Wonu." Like he's singing lyrics to Wonu who's driving, and he like lightly hits him with his two hands, and it's so cute. So I kind of want to draw it, and like Joshua's just like laughing in the background. So I kind of want to do that one, and I'll take you guys along with the kind of like cropping of the audio, the pre-planning alongside with like sketching the frames and how I like to break it up, because for the most part, when I do like the chibi animations, I will pick specific angles or zoom ins so that I will draw less and it will be vastly different from the actual episode itself. So hopefully I'll do that. And I can make it into a video so that'll make more sense to you guys. But other than that, I will be getting back into drawing on my iPad more often, which means that I'll be going back to drawing and catching up with a lot of Genshin fan art, Honkai Star Rail fan art. There's still fan art of like Ensemble Stars and like some of the other fandoms that I'm in that I would like to draw fan art of, both in like the draw with me style, or we can do like longer sketching, talking sessions, ASMR, obviously, like all of that. Because if you didn't notice, I've been doing a lot of traditional art, and it's just because digital art has been slightly burning me out lately, just because I've been doing a lot of sticker making, which requires me to do a lot of like repeating of doing the line art, dropping color, and just a bunch of different chibis, which is kind of burning me out slightly. So I've been trying to avoid drawing on my iPad so that I have enough energy to actually finish the stickers before Anime One. So in terms of coloring, so I did end up alpha locking the sketch color and kind of making it a little bit of like softer here and there before ending up merging my colors in my sketch together. After that, I added a addition layer and added kind of our rim lighting. So my rim lighting on his shoulders for sure are a lot thicker, and I didn't really notice it, but I prefer the thinner kind of like rim lighting on the original photo a little bit more. Oh, also at this point, because I have everything kind of laid out for me, and I don't want to be so like nitpicky about trying to follow the photo one to one, I did end up just putting the photo on my phone instead. So if I need to reference anything, I can glance at it rather it being like right in my face and being like, hey, this is what the thing should look like versus like what you want to make it look like. Because sometimes when I work on clothing folds, I get too much into the weeds of trying to make it look exactly the same as the one in the photo, which could be a good thing or a bad thing, depending on what you wanted to end up doing more of a study on anyways. But like I said at the beginning, my focus is mostly going to be the rim lighting and his hair strands. So oftentimes when I'm doing fan art of, let's say, Genshin characters, I don't add a lot of like wispy ends. Oops, it's like punched the mic. Like smaller hair strands compared. Oh, I guess I hit the mic or the camera in my footage too, so I guess coincidence much. But yeah, I like to simplify the hair a little bit more just because like in anime style or like manga style, cartoon, anything like that, we tend to like bunch up hair a lot more, so it's a little bit more manageable and we don't need that much, I guess, like indication of actual hair strands. So I kind of go a little bit more ham if I have like a specific reference. So the texture for Jonghan's hair is going to be a little bit more messier and more indication of hair strands versus, let's say, the fan arts I did of Plave earlier this year, where things were a little bit more bunched and I did more vague and kind of like bigger strands of, or like I guess chunks of shapes for the hair instead of all these little smaller strands that Jonghan has. It also doesn't really help that his hair is a little bit more I guess like one on the lighter side, and it's like I feel like if I chunked his hair too much, it doesn't really look like the photo itself. I do struggle a little bit of always drawing full front bangs or see-through bangs. So front bangs, I feel like could be just choppy and very like straight across, kind of like how I draw Akemi's hair, my OC. Or if you have like see-through bangs, I feel like most of us would be compelled to draw some kind of like thinner strands so that it kind of reads a little bit more daintier and softer. And I think I do have a hard time stylizing that type of hair, which Jonghan here does not exactly have see-through bangs, but he definitely has more like wispier bangs compared to, let's say, like a Kama hairstyle, or if their bangs were completely covering his forehead, because there's like areas that it kind of like peeks through. So I wanted to kind of convey it a little bit by adding more texture here and there and individual hair strands. But by far my favorite part was probably adding a lot of the wispier ends onto the edges where it was catching the most light, because I could just really play around with the shapes a little bit more, and just the more I add, the more it gets kind of fluffier and messier, and that's kind of like what I wanted to go for anyways. Oh, also, I don't know if you guys noticed, but initially I drew in Jonghan's hand and I was going to include more of his body into the actual composition and get it a little bit closer to what the actual full reference photo had, with him with, I think he's holding a mic in one hand and he has like a hand waving. And the reason why I didn't do that is similar to the reason of what I want to focus on in terms of like kind of like a study for the fan art. So I wanted to make his face a little bit bigger so that I could focus on the hair, and the way how I initially had it, I think his hair was like cut off on the side because I pushed it too far to the right to accommodate the hands that are going towards the bottom left. So that's just kind of like a little decision that I wanted to do. So it's just more similar to just a normal headshot, but like nonetheless it was still fun to do something like this. And I definitely miss kind of doing more coloring and kind of like a painterly style right here. I kept things a little bit looser in terms of his shirt and outfit just because it's not my main focus here, but it still needs to be somewhat rendered or finished so it doesn't look a little bit too awkward or weird. But while I am finishing up Jonghan alongside with kind of getting down to the actual crunch time of the last convention prep that I need to do, I'm still crunching out stickers for the most part, and I still want to do those Polaroids eventually, so we'll see what I can do. I kind of want to make some Honkai Star Rail ones just because March 7th does take a lot of photos and like, you know, has a camera and everything, so it kind of makes sense with the general theme that I could go with. But other than that, do let me know who from Genshin or Star Rail you want me to draw, because there are a lot of characters that I have not drawn and there's too many for me that I want to draw from. But people asking if I can draw characters from Zenless Zero. I think it's Zenless Zero. I don't remember. It's ZZZ or ZZZ if you're Canadian like me. I will eventually. I do have the game downloaded because I was talking to my friend about it, but I have not had time to play. I have Zenless Zero downloaded. I have Moonstone Island downloaded because it was on discount, and then I have Eastward downloaded. And I had these ones downloaded for so long, and I have not had time to play them. So hopefully I can. And I feel like there's something else I was gonna say. Oh, another thing I want to look forward to. Not want to look forward to, I am looking forward to, is like, I think it's August 27th. I believe Core Keeper is coming to the Switch, so I'm super excited about that because I love Core Keeper so much, and if I can play it on my Switch Lite, it would be a lot easier than having to boot up my computer or my laptop. So yeah, super excited about that. So last things I'm going to do for this particular piece is that I want it to appear a lot softer, similar to the photo. So I took a duplicate of the background and Jonghan layer. I duplicated them, merged them together, and then Gaussian blurred it to about 5%. I lowered the opacity to about, I think 50 or 60. And this time I did not really erase too much around the face like I usually do. But this kind of gives an overall like hazier effect over everything versus how I usually do the general kind of keeping one thing in focus, the rest kind of out of focus. So yeah, another way to kind of utilize the Gaussian blur if you want to. And Jonghan is pretty much done. After I added a few lighting effects and a little bit of dust particles here and there, now we have the time lapse. But hopefully you guys enjoyed a little bit of a shorter video. I know 20 minutes is not exactly short, but it tends to be on the shorter side for me. So yeah, hopefully you guys enjoyed watching me draw Jonghan today. And I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video next week. Bye!